The idea for this journey through the Baltics began with a simple thought. Just a few hours from home in the UK lies a part of Europe that to me still felt relatively unknown and unexplored. Over the next 2 weeks, I will be traveling through Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, a region of castles, forests, frozen lakes, and cities shaped by centuries of history. In this surprisingly compact corner of Europe, I will be exploring places that each carry a very different atmosphere, from the medieval beauty of Tallinn to Bordellenava, elegant Riga, and the Baroque charm of Vilnius. Eastern Europe is a part of the world that has long fascinated me and one I always find myself wanting to understand more deeply. Good morning from Tallinn, Estonia. This is my very first episode from the Baltic series. I am starting my very first episode in the capital city of this very fascinating country because I will be spending the next 2 weeks exploring the Baltic states, starting from Estonia, Latvia, and I hope to end up in Lithuania, which I had gone with my husband, but it was purely for self-holiday. And I am starting out late, to be honest with you, because there has been some snow and I'm just still navigating myself around it, starting my observation, watching people, and starting to feel like, okay, I am actually going to have such a good time in this part of the world. The Baltics are very much often overlooked by many tourists, not only because probably given the proximity to Russia, but also it's just so far east in consideration to the western part of the other countries. But I'm excited to explore it myself, to see what these parts of the world has got to offer, and so far it's been so lovely. Tallinn was my first stop in Estonia, the most northerly of the 3 Baltic states, sitting just across the sea from Finland and shaped by its own very distinct culture. My first impression of the city was how polished yet layered it felt. There were medieval church spires, wooden houses, modern skyscrapers, and cozy little eateries, all existing side by side. It felt sophisticated, but not in an overly sanitized way. What struck me quite quickly is that, even though Estonia shares parts of its geography and history with Latvia and Lithuania, it already felt culturally very different. But like much of the Baltics, its story has also been shaped by centuries of outside rule. During the Middle Ages, Estonia was ruled at different times by Denmark, German Knights, and Sweden, before later becoming part of the Russian Empire in the 18th century. So I'm actually starting my walk in Kalamaja, which is the northwest side of the old town, and I'm actually visiting Televiski Creative City, which was recommended to me by my Airbnb host because she said it's such a cool area where it used to be filled with so many factory buildings, and now they have renovated it to so many hipster and cool cafes with gorgeous mural art like behind me. It's so amazing, and also with snow it definitely feels like a winter wonderland, isn't it? So upon my observation, it seems to me that some of these buildings used to be train depot. You can see behind me over there because this is actually located just right next to the train station, so it makes sense. I find it really fascinating when people are able to be so creative and turn places that may no longer work for the current times to be something that are much more exciting and sort of up to date to what we need at this DNA. So yeah, I don't know if you can see that it actually says depot. And fascinating enough, in front of me is actually Balti Jama, and it seems to be a market that has been renovated in 1993, which is a year later since I was born. And I feel like perhaps it was exactly right after Estonia was no longer part of Soviet Union. And this market looks very, very modern from the outside exterior.
Just beyond Tallinn's Old Town, next to the main train station, Balti Yam Market quickly felt one of the most interesting places to wander in the city, which felt a bit like a modern farmer's market, but much bigger and more layered. It spreads across 3 floors with nearly 300 traders, so it's much more than just a simple market. Downstairs and on the ground floor, there are halls for fish and meat, fresh produce, and plenty of food options, while upstairs you'll find vintage clothing, antiques, Estonian designs and crafts. I'd really recommend coming here if you want a break from a more polished historic centre and a glimpse into a more everyday local side of Tallinn.
So it looks to me that the market is quite modern take to what traditional market probably used to look. But what's really cool is the variety of options when it comes to food, drink, even some vintage shop. And yeah, I just love looking at it. Before we continue my exploration in Tallinn, I would like to share something really exciting with you. So I have tried something completely brand new to me last night, because I headed out after dark to see if I could get deep space object photograph by using this tiny little device here, the Dwarf Mini Smart Telescope. The team from Dwarf Lab kindly sent me this Dwarf Mini to try, and they are kindly sponsoring this video, which is a very fitting opportunity for me to try something that I've never generally tried before. As I've never done any astrophotography before, I was curious to see whether a tiny device like this could actually capture the night sky. Just 840 grams, it is so lightweight and compact. The setup was also much simpler than I expected. I just placed it on the tripod, connected to the app, and it was able to find and track objects in the sky for me. I used the in-app features to find the recommended things to photograph last night, and it configured the settings and tracking automatically. So these are some of the images I managed to capture last night. This one here is the Heart Nebula, which I honestly couldn't believe when it started appearing on the screen. I also captured the Beehive Cluster, which is this beautiful group of stars. And I even started taking a photo of the Boat Galaxy with a tiny glimpse of the Cigar Galaxy just off the bottom of the screen, but the clouds came in before I had enough time to finish the full image, unfortunately. What I really like about the whole experience was that it didn't feel overly intimidating or technical. I was just outside under the night sky, and I was able to slowly watching the image come together. I think that's what makes this really special. It makes astrophotography really approachable, whether you're somewhere remote or just trying it from home. I'll be honest with you, I have absolutely no background in astrophotography, but with this tiny device, I was able to capture some really good image on my very first try. Thank you so much to Dwarf Lab team for sponsoring this video and supporting this channel, and also for sending this Dwarf Mini to try. If you're curious about astrophotography and would like to try it yourself, I will leave more details and the link in the description box below. Now let's head back to Tallinn and explore some more. When I was researching how do I go about the Baltics and where do I even start? So if you don't know, the Baltic states comprise of Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. And it is called the Baltic state because it's located right at the Baltic Sea, which is fascinating. So I flew out of Manchester to Tallinn via Copenhagen because I flew with SAS Scandinavian Airlines, and landed in Tallinn with a minus 16 degrees Celsius, and I was quite nervous in terms of the fact that this has been some of the coldest experience I've had. My host told me that this winter has been the coldest they've experienced so far. She said that generally winter lasts all around until April, so you wouldn't be so surprised to find Estonians and many Eastern Europeans in warmer country like Egypt. So upon my first impression, Tallinn has felt very safe so far in just walking around, not having to worry so much about potential crime, pickpocket. So that's definitely a plus, because I think Estonia in fact is one of the least dense population in Europe. If anything, Estonia's language is actually has a closer link to Finnish. And in terms of culture, I was told by my Airbnb host that they have a closer affinity to Latvian. So to me, this kind of identity is very, very interesting, because it's always so complex and multi-layered, isn't it? And yeah, I'm actually going to the Old Town because I had scheduled somehow a group tour in about 30 minutes from now, and would like to just see the Old Town from the Estonian perspective himself. So I'm actually with the tour that I've just joined, and it's been so lovely because we are lucky with the weather today, which is sunny and it's got blue sky. Doesn't represent much of the actual temperature and weather in Estonia, because as I was told before, throughout half of the year sometimes I think that it gets so dark and cold. So the sense of humor of Estonians are pretty dark themselves, because they are saying that they are pretty much depressed, a depressed nation. How funny. I was told that Estonia is so, digitalized, because a lot of startups actually started from here, from Revolut, even Wise, Skype, all of these big names that you probably usually have heard of before. So we were just discussing the history of Estonia and how complex this part of the country, part of the world has been, in terms of how many countries were trying to invade. I mean, they managed to invade it from the Swedes, German, Danish, Denmark, all the way to Russia, and fighting over all of this part of the land. Yeah, I think it's quite fascinating, because it makes you think how rich some of the culture, because of this cultural heritage and dark history, unfortunately. And thankfully, you can sense that people do not take freedom for granted in this part of the world. I was asking my guide if I can just briefly go to this ice skating rink, public ice skating rink, which is so cool, right? Because I had myself tried ice skate years ago and was never able to make it properly or do it properly. But these guys are natural. How amazing are they? Look at this, people. So funny, we've been discussing how there's a Denmark or Danish flag right in the middle of Tallinn city, because there's a lot of similarities in terms of the coat of arms, or even like Danish garden that we're walking right now. So we're walking slightly towards the upper town, and I have found it very charming in some of the like old stone parts of the city. How amazing to walk up the stair and be welcomed by this fortification all around us. And I think it's some of like the most well preserved sort of fortification I've seen in my travels. I mean, considerably in the middle of the capital city. Wow. And with the snow, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. So it's been quite fascinating to look at this fortification, right? Because about 2.6 kilometers of walls like this are well preserved in the city, and there are over 26 towers, according to my guide that was just explaining the history of this part. And it's interesting because we were told that the upper part of the old town is actually preserved and reserved for royal and noble families and all of that. So these structures behind me actually have got 3 of those, sort of looks like Dementor from Harry Potter if you watch the movies. But it's been fascinating to just hear stories here and there from the guide Gleb himself. So it's about an hour and a half until the sun is setting, but we're walking towards one of the most beautiful viewpoint in Tallinn, because from here you can see the expanse of the city, and I am just in and awe with the medieval tower and the Baltic Sea across it. It makes it absolutely charming.
So as you can see, the medieval city was much smaller.
Wow, look at that. You can see the expanse of Old Town as far as the Baltic Sea. All the way is the Baltic Sea, which I flew over. In fact, you can take a ferry from here to Helsinki in Finland. Wow. So we've just been walking along this very narrow street, and it's named the Blood Street, I think, because of its narrow alley. People used to be struggling to get past, and I think they were ended up in some fights and whatnot. It's beautiful now, but sometimes history makes it even more interesting, because the contradictory between what it looks now to what it used to be. the square has got some of this gorgeous Christmas tree, and we're talking about February right now. We were just discussing why on earth would you have Christmas tree in the middle of February, and my guide was joking because the winter is so long, the dark nights are for months. It's nice to keep the celebration and spirit going. This square is actually in fact where the Christmas market also often is held in December, and it is said to be believed that Tallinn Christmas market is one of the best in Europe. Latvian, the Lithuanian would come here to sell their goods, and the Finnish would come here to get drunk and everything. And I just think it's quite funny to hear this kind of European stories that I'm not so familiar with. But yeah, it's so pretty this time of the day.
I am nervous.
You're nervous. So this is Gleb, and he's been passionately explaining to us about Estonia, I mean specifically Tallinn, and its dark history with some of the humor that you've got. I was just wondering, if you were to explain Estonian in 3 words or 5 maximum, what would you say? Because obviously many people probably do not know about Estonia as a country. I mean, they don't know the Baltics first, let alone states. So if we were to introduce to international people, how would you say Estonia now?
Hidden wonderland of Northern Europe.
That's Estonia. What about the people?
What about the people? Friendly if you respect us, I guess.
If not,
you're not welcome.
don't trust them. They've been really friendly, but yeah.
No, if you come to Estonia and you make a friend here, a legitimate friend, it will be probably the most sincere individual you've met in your life. But you have to make sure that you befriend us correctly.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about smiling? Smiling is a big no-no in this part of the world.
Oh my God, I think this is why my hosts have been I've been trying to smile at her and she doesn't smile at me. I was like, did I offend you?
No.
Oh
no.
gosh.
Smile reserved only for the closest friends.
Traveling to Estonia 101. Do not smile, guys. Do not smile. That's the best tip you can ever take from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Gleb.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is Katja. We have been spending the past couple of hours exploring Old Town, and I had said proudly and confidently, oh, I'd love to visit Slovakia. And she said, I've never been to Slovakia. And I thought, well, you are from Slovakia. No, I am from Slovenia. How embarrassing. Well, I'm sure I'm not the first one to say that.
No.
Yeah, so how many days are you staying, did you say?
5 days.
Yeah, and is it your first time being in the Baltics?
Yeah, I've never been. Just, I don't know, never considered coming here.
Yeah, it's so often overlooked, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a pity, I think.
Yeah, it's so pretty and medieval, Gothic, and so well preserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are actually going to traditional food eateries where we'd be able to taste some of traditional food that we were recommended to try. So I'd be curious to actually see. So this is the legendary pancake house. They said that the locals often eat here rather. So we have come to Compressor, which is this just local eateries that was recommended to us by our guide. And one of the things that he recommended was to get the soup, which is tomato soup with a bit of meat and traditionally Estonian. One of the things that I've wanted to try is also pancakes, but I'm not sure how traditional would that be. So the soup is going to be amazing, especially considering how cold it's been, just being outside and walking. My toes are freezing, and some of the times that I tried to create vlogs, I wasn't able to even verbalize my thought process. It's been great to just get to know Tallinn from this short time that Galeb has introduced us. Some of the stories, the folklore, especially some of the history that was interesting. I didn't know how close relation between Denmark and Estonian was. For my own knowledge, Estonian to me was always part of the Baltic states and was part of the Soviet Union. And that history was more recent, isn't it? But yeah, it's been so incredible just to walk around a bit the old town and head east to Narva tomorrow morning by train. But before that, I need to have a good dinner before having my evening. Yeah. Oh my God, this soup! I'm so glad I got this.
It's good.
It's sour, and with the sour cream, and it's hearty and sweet as well. Oh, I love this one.
Delicious.
Yeah.